Hey, hi, it's noon on Tuesday, so guess what?
What?
It must be time for Voices in Vegas.
Oh, wow.
How are you, John?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm doing great. Have you noticed the weather?
It's awesome.
It's awesome. Have you seen those trees blooming?
Yes, I have.
Oh my goodness, the cherry blossoms. I feel like I'm back in Japan.
Oh, yeah. God, I forgot about that.
Oh,
Yes.
so beautiful. And the weather. You know, I've been leaving the windows open a little bit at night. It's really nice.
And my cats love me for that.
Oh,
Not for you leaving your windows
how many
open.
cats
for
do
me,
you have? How many cats do
I
you
have two and a dog.
2 cats and a dog?
Yes.
Wow. Have you always had animals, or are these, because cats find
much.
you?
Pretty much.
Uh-huh.
I mean, yeah, pretty much. I've always had some kind of an animal.
Yeah, you know, I've never been
Or
an
bird.
animal. Oh, so you've gone.
I raised exotic birds for a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. What did you like the most about raising birds? Because I have a friend, Bev Baker, who's a nurse, and she has she has a menagerie at her house.
Cool. I'd like to go meet her then.
Yeah.
The what people don't realize about birds is they are extremely social animals.
Really?
You can't put them in a cage and stick them in the corner. They go nuts.
Really?
They love interaction, whether it's, I mean, ideally with other birds.
Uh-huh.
But
They're intelligent.
Oh, extremely. I had one, a military macaw. That I got. She was 6 weeks out of the egg. Didn't even have feathers, anything yet.
Wow.
Looked like a little dinosaur. She got to the point where I literally had to put a padlock on her cage because she knew how to open it.
Oh my gosh.
And she would climb up on top of her cage, and it was one of those great big cages because a military macaw can get up to 3 feet.
Oh, yeah.
And she would get up on top of the cage, and we had a couple of dogs at the time, and she would feed the dogs from her. She would throw food down to the dogs because, you know, she ate vegetables and fruits and stuff like that, and
Right.
nuts, and so the dogs would come running over to her cage. She'd throw the food down,
And it was a symbiotic relationship.
Oh yeah, but if she ever got down off of the cage,
Yeah.
because we kept her wings clipped, but if she ever got down off of her cage and got onto the floor, the dogs all split.
Oh, really?
They were afraid of her. Yeah.
Oh, good girl. Wow.
So she kind of ruled the house. So yeah, it was cool. I you know, pets are excellent therapy as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, absolutely.
And pretty much all of my pets have been rescues of some type. And
Well, you know, they say that when you have pets, I know people who like animals more than people.
yeah, I don't blame
And I
them.
could never understand that. And, you know, now I feel kind of stupid because as a middle child, you know, you're always on the outs.
Sure.
And I'm really surprised that I didn't have more pets because I think that would have been a good thing. But when you have a brother and sister, it's sort of like that's enough animals in the house.
Yeah, oh, really?
You know, and then aunts and
You have enough
uncles.
pets.
And I have enough pets that are bothering me. So, any case, I have, it wasn't until I met my husband and he had a cat. And all of a sudden, you know, now I can't get enough cats. They
Yeah.
find me.
Yeah.
And they say, you know, in Japan, cats are good luck.
Yes, they
You
are.
always want a house with a cat.
Yep.
And they are so psychic
Cats
as well.
and crickets.
Yes. In fact, you know what? It's funny you should say that. I found a cricket in my sink.
Oh, cool.
And so I always, thank you. my audience, the crickets.
He's on
But
top of it.
I always tell my kids, don't hurt the crickets because that shows we have
Yeah.
a healthy house.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree
They
with
bring
you.
good luck and health.
Yeah. Well, I have to
Supposedly.
tell you that I have a macaw on my sewing table.
Oh, really?
But it's it's the talking one.
Right.
My brother.
You mean an alive one that's alive?
No.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like an
Yes,
animatronic.
right, got you. Okay.
But it's I never have to feed. I never have to clean up after it.
Yeah.
And but I've never been able to figure out how to program it.
Ah.
But one day I will. But I do love, you know, even if it doesn't move, I just think they are so beautiful.
Oh yeah, and I mean they really are magnificent, and especially you see
colors,
them in the
the
wild.
plumage.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things I liked about them, whether it was cockatiels or lovebirds or macaws or you know cockatoos or any of them. the colors are so intense. And it's not just like, oh yeah, that's green. It's like, whoa, that is green. And the reason that they call the military macaws military is because of some of their feathers, their under feathers are that military green,
like
like the olive green, like the uniforms,
Yeah.
And so that's how they got their name, but in this country. Anyway.
Oh, I thought that they were like,
No.
Alexander the Great marching.
But and it was funny because with I called her Miss Bubba, but. We didn't realize it for a while, but we'd be sitting at the dinner table and we'd have dinner and we're talking and blah, blah, blah. And I realized sometime later that when she was up on top of her cage and eating her food, she would mumble to herself.
No, that's what I was going to ask you. Do they talk?
Oh yes, it was crazy, and I just it took me a little bit to realize. Oh, she's hearing us in the other room at the dinner table talking, but she can't quite make it out. And so she,
oh, isn't that interesting?
And she would call the dogs by name. And we had one dog that was
that would make me
there
crazy.
Was a whippet, and the thing is that I was at work most of the time, but my wife was home, and so Bubba, of course, sounded like my ex-wife Rhonda. And she would call the dogs because Rhonda would call them for dinner.
Right.
And Bubba would do the same thing. She'd go, Bullet, come here, Bullet. Hey, come here, Bullet. Come on, Bullet. Come on, Grim. And
my God, that's like having a kid.
And it is. And when the dogs would bark, Rhonda would always go, shut up. They'd be barking and somebody go, and so the dogs would start barking, and you would hear Bubba going, shut up, shut up, shut up, and it sounded just like Rhonda. So they picked that up, and it's not, it's not something that, well, I mean, you can train them to do it, but they do it naturally. They are imitators, and they will.
Right.
I had one friend who had a blue and gold macaw, and she would imitate the sound of the phone ringing, and this was back when we had answer machines.
Oh, right.
She would imitate that sound of the phone ringing, and then whatever was on the message.
Oh, my gosh.
And so this friend of mine kept hearing the phone ring, and she'd go over to answer the phone. There's nobody there, and it took her a little while to realize it's the bird in the other room. And
oh, my gosh.
So anyway,
they're imitators.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. And also, with the pets, there are certain people who, there's a nonverbal communication that goes on. And I never kind of understood that because I know people who have better they have children, but they like the dog better.
Sure.
And it didn't occur to me until, I guess, when I went to Japan, and one of our friends there told us that it's good luck to have a cat in your house because they're also very psychic. So they have that ability to be non-verbally communicative. And most people, it's interesting because some people, when they communicate, they're not really communicating. Whereas with pets, even though they don't say a word, they get you.
Yeah. They know if you're sad. They know if you're happy. They know.
Oh, they know if you're
bullshitting.
Yeah,
exactly. And so yeah, they're pretty cool to have around.
Oh,
so.
I love my cat. I love my animals, all my children, my husband, every one of them. My farm, the Feldman farm.
I do. I'm not the kind of person that likes animals better than I do people, but sometimes the people piss me off more than the animals do.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what else is interesting? My father, by the way, I don't want to interrupt, but my parents on the 26th will be celebrating their 61st wedding anniversary.
Wow.
So I wanted to say happy anniversary to Marty and Ken for 61 years.
Cool.
There you go. Yay! Happy anniversary.
How old were they when they got married?
2.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Yeah. No, what's really funny, though, is that my mother's father actually knew, my mother's parents knew my dad when he was just a little tiny boy.
Wow.
And then they moved to California. And of course, after the war, everybody else showed up.
Right.
And so did my dad's aunt and uncle. And so that's how they got reconnected. So I always say that, they haven't been together 61 years. They've been together even before they were conceived. And what's interesting about that is that in Judaism, 40 days before a boy is conceived, his beshert or his mate
Right.
is named in heaven.
Wow.
So I always joke that they're the ultimate example of this because, how do you know each other and then 15 years you're separated and then boom, and then you're together 61.
Wow.
I know. Well, my dad was in the Air Force and a cop, so really they've only seen each other
So he
a
was
total of
gone
8
most
years.
of the time, yeah.
Yeah. And my mom said when we were little, it was kind of fun because my dad,
The
if he
secret
wasn't,
to successful marriage. Yeah.
absolutely. And my dad used to fly Air National Guard on the weekends. This was during the Vietnam War.
Gotcha.
And then he worked for the Sheriff's Department. So the guy was never around, but when he was home, it was always Party City.
Yeah.
And then, then he'd go back to work and, we would go back to our regular lives. So, yeah, it was kind of a funny household.
Cool.
I should only be so lucky, right?
Exactly.
Anyway, I would like to take a break right now.
It's your show. You can do anything you want.
And we're going to get Mary Jo in the Know on. So come back, go get something to drink, and come on back. And welcome back. Everybody got their you got something to drink? Good. Because usually about, this time I start to, we have one of those, what is it, a cough break?
Las Vegas cough.
There you go. That raspy old thing. Well, today is February 23rd, and it's the Nevada caucus.
For the Republicans.
For the Republicans. I guess they're on Saturday.
Saturday, the Democrats had theirs.
Last Saturday. This
The
is
20th.
happening so fast.
Well, this is an election year, right?
Well,
That's
yes.
why all this is happening.
I've been waiting
Okay.
for this year.
All right. Okay, cool.
For the last 8 years.
Okay.
Anyway, it's very interesting what's going on. Do you know the difference between a primary and a caucus?
No, what is the difference between a primary and
Well,
a caucus?
according to
I mean, yes, I do, but if I admit that, then you don't have anything to say.
Oh. Well,
What
that's
is the
very
difference
true.
between a primary and a
Well,
caucus?
according to Michael Feldman, my husband, American history extraordinaire, apparently the caucus is for rural, where there's lower population.
Okay.
So you can go into town, like let's say on a certain day, and all the farmers are there. You physically stand in a certain place, and they count you.
Right.
But when you have a state as large or as populous as, let's say, New York or Florida or Texas, you cannot possibly count all these different.
Right.
So anyway, tonight my
numbers are
husband and
just-
I, yeah. So you need a primary. Well, so tonight we're going to go caucus.
Cool.
So it reminds me of that I Love Lucy episode where she wants to be president and she gets Carolyn Appleby.
Yeah.
To go into the other room, and then they walk back, and because they want a caucus,
Right.
and afterwards they come back out, and Caroline Appleby is not only have Ethel's Lucy's new purse, but sweater as well. I guess that's politics at
There
its
you go.
simplest.
There you go.
So, but I want to know why. I understand that we used to be a primary in Nevada.
That's yes. I think it was 8 years ago, wasn't it? 8 years ago that we switched
Yeah.
to the caucus system because that made us first in the West. The first Western state to basically say, here's who we're going to support.
Oh, really?
Yes.
And historically, in the last 8 years, historically, are we sort of like the Iowa or New Hampshire? You know how they have these certain Iowa, New Hampshire, and then South
we do
Carolina?
have a lot of juice in this state. We have been traditionally a swing state for a long time. It's not, you don't have to win Nevada, but if you do, you got a better chance of winning. So, and I'm not sure of all of the whys and wherefores there, but I know that, that it is important.
You know,
so.
Compared to some of the East Coast
I know
states-
what it is. And I'm sorry but it is because of our diverse population. We have a diversity in our population that is not in every state. Like South Carolina,
Right.
they're pretty much homogenous. They all, they're all related and everything. Here you've got
Inbreeding, yeah.
well,
And it's a big military state. Now, I love
Yes.
South Carolina.
Yep.
And I can totally, I don't know if you've ever been between North and
Yep.
South Carolina,
Yes.
but there is a big difference.
Oh, yes. So
Anyway, go on.
So anyway, yeah. So we are diverse. We are a diverse population, and that it gives you a better indication of the breakdown overall in the U.S. It's like when they do the Nielsen ratings and stuff like that.
Right.
They take a sampling.
Right.
And so they try to get as diverse a sampling as possible. Hispanic, black, white, Asian, all of the different ethnic groups, and we've got a pretty good mix here.
Well, we have a very interesting microcosm going on because we're in the middle of nowhere.
Yes.
I mean, there ain't nothing around us, and yet we have this like little United Nations here.
Yeah.
I mean, you can find any. I mean, it's no different. I'm very surprised because when we first moved here, I thought that this was the whitest state I've ever been to, besides Minnesota. And that was really freaky walk because growing up in downtown LA, I'm used to seeing like being the weirdo in a sea of brown.
Yeah.
And then go to Minnesota and I look like everyone else. It's like a time
52nd
zone.
in Vermont.
Oh, nice.
I wouldn't go down there now, but I used to live there.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, I know exactly. I have memories,
Yeah.
very early memories. I think my grandmother lived on 56th Drive, or I don't know. But my mother grew up on 32nd Drive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, it's wild. Okay. So anyway, getting
moving
back
right
to the we were talking about caucuses, weren't we?
I think so.
And so it's very interesting how we have this microcosm of it's like a mini United Nations of everyone out there. But surprisingly, we are, while Nevada is so different, we're almost, because we have a smaller population to land size, I think it's easier to figure out what I would consider Nevadans conservative. I don't think, this is the wild, wild west. I
Right.
always think of, Yosemite Sam and the rootin' tootin'. In fact, I told...
Well, it used to be that way, but not anymore.
Well, you still have that sort of sense of adventure.
Right.
You don't move out here because you want to continue to live on, Beacon Hill
Right.
in Boston. You
Yeah.
just basically are the type who says, I don't want to live here. I got to move out. And also, when you look at people, the way they dress even, we're so much more, outdoors.
Relaxed.
I would have to say that the lifestyle,
Yeah.
not categorically, all the way over, but people do tend to like to be a little bit more out of the box.
Yeah. Yep.
And especially to move out here because no one is really indigenous. I'm always amazed by people who are actually born in Las Vegas.
I've met a few. Now, I lived here as a kid. Off and
you
on.
did?
So, yeah. No. So back in the late 50s, early 60s, we lived here for a few years. Then moved back to California.
When it was a company town.
Yes. Yeah. And
And it was family owned.
It was a great place to live back then.
Oh, that's what my dad always
says. It was
says.
absolutely just a terrific place to live. Anyway.
But I would even, I don't know, would you say that the mobsters were more Republican or Democrat?
I'd say they were more independent.
I often wonder because they're very entrepreneurial.
They didn't care.
And they really did take care of their own.
You bet.
They were but they were very interesting. Yeah, they were their own.
The perfect example that I always use is Mayor Daley of Chicago.
Uh-huh.
Mayor Daley, the original Mayor Daley, not the son, the father, was an absolute crook.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you didn't get more crooked than he was.
Uh-huh.
But the difference was that he always made sure that the people of Chicago were taken care of.
Mm.
He did not, in other words, okay, I'm going to get mine, but I want to make sure you guys get yours too.
Yeah.
So he wasn't out there, hooray for me and to help with you.
Right.
So
well, you can't get elected that much if,
Right.
that's the,
Yeah.
those are your constituents
Well,
and your
you can now.
shareholders.
You can now. I mean, all it takes is a whole bunch of money, and you can pretty much get elected now. So.
I have to say this about someone who is financially successful. I don't resent that. In fact, I look at that and you and I'll just use Donald Trump.
Sure.
You don't see him at these nightclubs. Okay?
Right.
You don't see him, and also look at his kids. His kids are not addled trust fund kids.
Right.
They all went to college. They all run his company, and I always like to look at that. And he wasn't one of those stay-at-home kind of fathers, but basically you can see that he had some influence because his kids are running his business. And that to leave your interest in the hands of your children I think says a lot about somebody who has worked really hard in order to leave something for the next generation.
Gotcha.
And, I also respect him because you know what? He signs people's paychecks. He understands that there are people who are dependent on his providing jobs.
Right.
And, I mean, hate all you want, but you know what? It takes a lot of work to make a living.
And I don't think it's hate, the overall feeling in this country. I don't think it's a hate of people who are successful and make money. Mm-hmm. It's a hate of, okay, I'm paying my fair share of taxes.
Yes.
You should too.
Oh,
when
yeah.
GE takes all of their money, they don't pay any taxes, they ship all the jobs overseas, and they get all of the benefits of having a business in this country, but none of the responsibilities of having a business in this country.
And
that's what people are pissed at.
But GE is a corporation. I mean,
no, they are not.
They
not
aren't?
anymore. Not since the Supreme Court decision that says that a corporation can be considered a person.
Oh.
That's
Where have I been?
That's why everybody wants to.
I remember that case.
Yeah, everybody wants to overturn the, what the hell's the name of that? Yeah, I know. I'm having a brain
But you know
fart.
what? I have to say, I look at my husband and I look at my father-in-law, and they're hardworking.
Sure.
They work very hard. And, when
Do
you
they pay taxes?
A lot.
Okay.
A lot.
So they are living the American dream.
Yeah.
And they are participating in that American dream.
Yes.
Because I'm a big fan of Elizabeth Warren.
Uh-huh.
And the reason that I am is because one of the things that she was talking about not too long ago is okay, you have built a factory and you're very successful and you're making money at it.
Right.
And we love that. It's great. But what you have to realize is all the people around you that have paid taxes have paid for the roads to get your goods to the store, and have paid for the police department to protect you and the fire department.
Right.
So if you want to take all of the profits that you've made and take them someplace else so that you don't have to pay taxes for those roads or those police or those fire or the military, then we don't want you here. I mean, that's not what she said, but that's basically the gist of
Right.
her comment was, yes, absolutely. Just if you should be successful, that's the American dream.
Right.
And if you work hard and you keep doing it and you keep pushing, yes, but you still have to pay your fair share.
Right. But making a living is not an easy thing.
Not anymore. It's almost impossible.
But I remember, my
when you've
grandparents.
got somebody that works 40 hours a week
Uh-huh.
that's on food stamps, when you have one.
Yeah, what's up with that?
When you have the military, the active military personnel that qualify for food stamps, that's criminal.
Oh, yes.
That
yes.
is criminal.
Yes.
And you have the people who work for some of these large corporations that are making a shitload of money that are eligible for food stamps because, well, if you work 40 hours a week, you're eligible for benefits. So you're only going to work 36 hours.
Yeah. Well, I was a nurse for 33 years.
So
I've as far as I'm concerned, they can't pay you enough.
level playing field. That's what we need.
But you know what else is also very interesting is that it's also I have noticed this, and my mother and I were talking about how lucky we are that in our family and our family of friends we have professionals,
Right.
doctors,
Sure.
lawyers, nurses. So, we never really have to go to ask somebody else. We'll just call,
Right.
Michael.
Right.
Because he'll tell us.
Yeah.
Because he tells everybody everything. Anyway, he's a good guy. The thing is that, it's also, I think, sometimes a case of the rich get richer and the poor get poorer.
Right.
Because when you have, a group of people, like my husband breezed through financial contract law. I don't know what the
Right.
name is, but he never had to go. What was it? It was finance law. Went to the first class, went to the midterm, went to the final, never went to any other class, got an A. We ran into some guy who recognized him and said, I was in that class. How did you get that good grade?
Right.
I said, are you kidding me? My family's been doing this for,
Yeah.
so every time
Right.
the family, do you see what I'm saying? So every time the family would sit down, what would they talk about? Well, they would talk about, finance
law.
of,
Right.
because that was their business.
Sure.
And, if the government especially was going to tax you.
Right.
You had to know. You had to participate.
Sure.
And that's really the whole thing, is participation. Anyway, the caucus is tonight.
Yes, it is, as a matter of fact.
And I'm looking forward to going and participating in real life. I really hope my husband becomes a delegate. I've been trying to get him to be a delegate forever. He really should have been. He must. I really look at him.
I'm
and
a
think of
delegate
him.
for the other side.
Oh, are you?
Yes, yeah.
Well, good.
One of the things that I heard recently about caucusing as opposed to the primary,
Yes.
which I thought was interesting, and I think that what they were talking about is that the caucuses aren't. There was a lot of crap going on here because of the, maybe things weren't counted properly or whatever.
Right.
And you know who John Ralston is?
Yes, I do.
He was making a commentary on the caucus, the Democratic caucus, and he was saying that Harry Reid had called the union leaders,
Yes.
culinary union.
Oh, uh-huh.
And said,
and that's
"Look,"
very big here.
yeah, because they've been sitting on the sideline, haven't come out and endorsed a candidate or anything like that. And he called them like the day before the caucus and said, "All right, you need to get your people to support Hillary, and you need to get your people out there."
Right.
So the comment that he was making, or the point that he was making, was that you go into a caucus room, and the head of your union is over there, and he has told everyone, you need to caucus for Hillary. Now, I don't want to caucus for Hillary. I want to caucus for Bernie Sanders.
Right.
However, the head of my union's over there, and if he sees me caucusing for Bernie Sanders, I may have some trouble at my job.
That's not right.
And that's the difference. And this was the point that he was making, the difference between a caucus and the primary. In a primary, I go into a vote, or I go into a booth.
Right.
And I cast my vote. Nobody knows who I voted for, and I don't have to worry about any repercussions of someone seeing me.
Right.
Now I'm just the opposite. I'm not afraid to say this is what I think, and here I am.
That's why you work at Vegas All Net Radio.
The final frontier at free
The
speech.
final frontier.
So anyway, I can see where that could have an effect. Is that let's say that everybody that you work for or your boss has come and said, "Okay, guys, we're going to support so and so."
Oh, I could.
Now,
Yeah.
I'm going there, and I don't want to support so and so. So the outcome may be askew a little bit.
But
But when it comes to the election, that's a different story. But if your candidate doesn't get nominated, you've already lost. So that's one of the things. So I think Super Tuesday is going to tell a lot about what happens in
now,
both parties.
Super Tuesday is next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah. Because the one thing that I like that I've seen this election cycle that I haven't seen in a long time is the enthusiasm and the commitment, and people are getting out there.
Yeah.
And they're showing up.
Well,
we didn't have that in the last election.
Well, because there was a lot of other.
But you had of the entire population that was eligible to vote.
Right.
You had less than 60% registered.
Okay.
Of that 60%, you
Yes.
have 40% of registered voters actually showed up and turned out to vote. So you got one person making decisions for the other 10.
Yes.
Which sucks. So we need to get out
Well,
there and vote. I don't care who
wait a
you
minute.
vote for, but get your ass out there and vote.
Okay, wait a minute. I have a degree in public affairs.
Okay.
So, basically that's government.
I actually
and
prefer
civics.
private affairs, sir.
So, and of course it's USC, which you don't
Of
come anymore a bastion of conservatism. And anyway, I had just come back from my junior year. I'd lived in West Berlin and Finland. And I had come back, and those countries are amazing. Finland is an amazing country, but even West Berlin for its own historic reasons. But it was the Reagan
Right.
was running, and I remember how many Europeans would say to me, "Oh, Reagan, he's gonna blow up the world. He's crazy. He's nuts. Oh, it's gonna start
Yeah, but
World
Nancy
War III."
wasn't.
No. But the thing is, though, that when he did get into office, it changed, because when I was there 79, 80.
Right.
So I remember how Europeans felt about Carter and how they felt about Americans. It was a joke.
Yeah.
I went to a reception at the Russian embassy when I was in Helsinki. And, they, it was embarrassing to, because Carter was just, I mean, he was an intellect, he's an intelligent person. God bless him. Thank you for serving our country. But he was an intellect. He wasn't a mover groover. I wouldn't say Reagan was the most brilliant, but he had the right people behind him, and he knew how to communicate, which I think, let's face it, in this television era now, post 1960,
reality
you
TV,
have to present. You can't be in Washington D.C. and then 5 years later the news gets to California.
Right.
That's through a lot of things. Now it's immediate, and not only that, but when people, I've seen this many times. People will be in the debates, and then they'll say, no, that's not what you said, and then they cut.
You see the clip.
And it's like, this is craziness.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the bottom line is we're trying to run a government. But anyway, getting back to me. So when I came back and everybody was running, I often thought, and I used to talk to my professors about this, which I don't know if they made me, it was an unusual idea, that I really felt that you had to have an intelligence test to vote. Because a lot of people, either they're single issue voters, or they're not looking at the whole big picture. It's like, this is what I want, and to hell with everything else.
But an intelligence test is not going to change that.
Well, some people don't.
Because everybody votes their best interest.
Well, here's the other thing. To read. And I'll be honest with you. I mean, I read.
Right.
But reading something like legislation. I mean, let's play the crickets again.
Why should you read it? Because none of the people in Congress read them.
Because if they don't read them, then that means that I have to even read them.
Of course.
But that's participating again.
Right.
And if you don't participate, but sometimes I said, this is a very radical, sometimes I wish some people didn't participate. and that goes for both sides of the aisle.
Right.
One of the people that I really admired always as a politician was Richard Riordan. He was one of Los Angeles' best, because he played. I don't want to say played, but he acknowledged that there was validity on both sides of the aisle, and he never pegged himself one or the other. So he was working in a cooperative rather than you against us, because you're always going to have the balance.
That's what it's come to. It's like, I don't care, I don't want to play the same game you're playing, so no, I'm not going to do anything.
Right. Now, that's not the right thing.
No.
But hopefully things will happen where, and I'll say this about Trump, and I don't want to punch it, but, my husband and I were both talking because we were watching his thing over at Caesar's Palace last night. And, we were saying, man, he's funding this whole thing. He does not answer to anybody.
Actually, that's not true.
Who's funding him?
I don't know, but if you give me about 5 minutes, I can give you the list. Yeah.
I would love to know
that. Because I thought the same thing until yesterday, and I saw the list of people that...
Because once you start taking money from people, then you have to kind of like...
Thing. This is what I've always wondered.
The point of making is,
it's
go
ahead,
all
I'm
him.
sorry. Yeah. But
100%. If it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad. It's still him.
Yeah. One of the things that I've always wondered about is, why would you spend a couple of $100 million for a job that pays $500,000 a year? Because
I think he has a coalition of people who are kind of not really happy with what happened in the last 8 years.
Yes.
And that was sort of like Reagan. Remember,
Those
Reagan
are the same people who were happy with what happened the previous 8 years.
and you know what? Isn't it beautiful in our country, though?
Yeah.
Everyone gets a chance.
Yes.
And I really like it when everyone gets a chance. Because when you're in charge, in fact, as a nurse, when I would take charge, it was like I really appreciated just how hard that person's job is.
Of course.
Because, when you walk in someone else's shoes or you cross-train, it gives you a much better... That's why I think all medical students should start out as janitors. I think we'd have a lot better difference.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking for a hospital that's nurse-owned, by the way. So if you know of a hospital that is nurse-owned, please call me and tell me. I'd love to hear about it. Right now, I'd like to take another break. So we will be back. Time
flies when you're having fun.
Yeah. Wrap it up. And we will be back in a few minutes. And so go get another drink, and we'll see you in a few. Hi. Hi.
Hi.
Welcome back. Did you get your little refreshment?
Yes, I did.
Good. And you promised to get me the information about Trump.
Yes.
Right on.
Yeah. Anything well, never mind.
And the funny thing about politics is that there's always something to talk about.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, if it's not one thing, it's another thing.
And I always cringe at the people who say never talk about politics or religion. Well, those are two extremely
the best things to talk about.
Those are that's two of the most important things in our lives every day.
Well, they have a huge impact.
And don't talk about them. So,
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So.
Well, there's because
Just
everybody
because
has
you're
their
wrong
own.
doesn't mean I don't like you. That's what we need to get past.
But another thing is that I, being a middle child, I have learned through hard mistakes, and that is the hard mistake of it's better to let the other side show their cards. I always was preemptive. It was like I knew they were coming, so
Yep.
I might as well just get ready for them. But when I got older, I realized that I let my brother and sister do the stupid wrong thing, and then I
Right.
was like, oh.
I don't think we
Anyway.
should talk about politics
No,
anymore.
I don't
Let's
wanna
talk about something
politics.
else.
I want to talk about feng shui.
Feng shui.
And then we're going to play a little game.
Isn't that where you put stuff in a room in the right way so that you get all the energy?
And I want to tell you, we've talked about this before.
Yes, we have.
And I have been, as I have been working on other projects, realizing that I have been feng shuiing my house
Unconsciously?
subconsciously.
Yeah.
And I have also found quite a few things that saved me a lot of money.
Cool.
I found all kinds of things by cleaning out closets. It really is amazing how fast we can't find it, so we immediately, not only organizing
Right.
and getting out the clutter, which has a lot to do with this new moon or this full moon in
Full moon.
Virgo. Did you see this full moon?
Yes, I did. And being a Virgo, I'm very happy about it.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Oh, so how was your weekend?
Relatively uneventful, which is the way I liked it. Got a lot done. I could feel the
Virgo.
Positive energy. Yeah, everything in a place for everything and everything in its place.
Well, if you don't have clutter, then the key or the life energy.
There's no point in living if you don't have clutter.
Oh, what is with the clutter?
I have to do that
telling
every
you.
couple of months. I have to go through my garage or my closets or my house and just like, okay, I haven't used this in the last 3 months. Out it goes.
I call it the
Yeah.
hefty bag.
Yeah.
The hefty bag
Yeah.
treatment. And what I do is I will just pick a day. And if I haven't seen, touched, or looked at this thing for the last year,
Mm-hmm.
it's out of there. Now, it's hard when you have kids because that particular picture or that envelope that they know that they were supposed to be taken care of, but now they need it.
Yep.
But like I was telling my daughter, if you keep things organized and there's no clutter, you know exactly what you have
Yep.
and where to get it. And it would really save me a lot of time because then I wouldn't have to clean out all these desk drawers to find stuff.
But that
Well,
takes all the fun out of it.
I will have to say that as I was feng shuiing my son's room, his old room, I found his old computer. I cleaned up the loft desk, put the computer up there, and now I have my own my sewing machine embroidery
Oh, cool.
studio, and I'm thinking, wow, this is great. But what's really funny is that I kept putting my hand in the closet, like, oh, I need a keyboard, and I'd pull out a keyboard. Oh, I need a mouse. I mean, it was sort of like there was somebody over there who was like, oh, in
Here you
here,
go.
and
Yeah.
here's the monitor.
Yeah. Awesome.
Funny. But anyway, here's what I want to know. And this is what I read, which was really funny. Because I have this book. It's called Angelic Feng Shui, 101 Ways to Make Your Home Heaven on Earth. And it's written by Reverend Jane Howard Feldman of Angel Heights,
Any relation?
Upper Maryland. No. Isn't this wild?
Wow.
Anyway, her email is earthangelforpeace@aol.com. And she has a website called earthangelforpeace.com. So if you want to know about this, and I don't really remember how I got this, but number 37, it says, give your home a name. Let the name be a message to you about your spiritual ideals. Now, John,
Yes.
If you had to name your house, what would you name your house?
That's a tough question. That's an interesting question.
That reflects your spiritual ideals.
I'm not being a wise guy when I say this or trying to be a smart ass,
Go ahead if you want to.
but it would probably be something like cool. You know,
Casa de
I
Cool?
made it home.
Casa de Cool.
Yeah, Casa de Cool. Yeah.
Casa de Frio.
De Frio? Yeah, there you
Frio,
go.
Yeah,
Okay.
Casa de
Yep.
Frio. Well, Casa is
House and
Casita
Frio.
del Frio.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
But yeah, it would be because it's like that is my sanctuary.
Uh-huh.
It's where I'm able to let my creative freak flag fly. You know, I mean that's
Uh-huh.
where I get a lot of my photography and the video and stuff like that. That's
Uh-huh.
where I get the real creative stuff done.
That's where you center and
yes.
ground.
Yeah,
And that's the way your
my
house
ground.
should be.
Yeah, and it's like when I walk in the door, it's just like, oh, cool, I made it. You know.
Well, yeah, you've
I'm
come
here.
back
I'm
to your
safe.
sanctuary.
Right. Yeah, my sanctuary.
Which is kind of
that's
the
it.
whole point of this feng shui.
There you go.
Because you don't want to live, fish swim in water and we
Right.
swim in energy.
Yep.
And you don't want your energy to be cluttered. It really physically will affect you. And you see these hoarders, and I'm sure that this is the whole thing, is that, they've got to just get rid of holding on to that old stuff.
Right.
Because if you don't, then, you can't move forward. And also with this full moon in Virgo, it was it was a very interesting week. I mean, it was an interesting week at home. I got so much done. I worked on my quilt. I got a lot done. I felt sort of the same way you
Right.
did, very efficient. But again, nobody was home.
Right.
And every so often, I need that.
Right.
And so my husband and
We all do.
daughter.
I think we all do. We all
Yes.
need that. You know.
And that was the other theme of this full moon, was sometimes you have to go away. Coming home is not the same as never leaving.
Right.
And the reason why we leave, and the Japanese believe this, that you change your location to change your energy. Because sometimes we get so grounded and too centered that
Yeah.
sometimes we do have to move ourselves to another. She used to put John Lennon, because he had that terrible depression. She used to put him on a plane to Japan. And then he'd stay there 12 hours and then he'd fly right back.
Right.
Because that was her way of... she did a better job with astrology. When she
Right.
was doing astrology, that's when they really... they were doing very, very well until... it's really terrible how she didn't... Oh, anyway. So...
And I love to
naming your
travel.
house.
I love to travel, but I always love coming home. Yeah.
This is why I backpack.
Yep.
Because a couple nights on the ground in a tent, it really makes me appreciate the fact that my bed, my head doesn't hurt.
And the right pillow.
And also a shower. And camping, I have to say, camping for a woman is much different than camping for a man. A guy can go out there and just wing it. For a woman, it's a completely different ball game.
Now, see, I associate camping with getting shot at. So camping is not a good experience for me.
Now, isn't that interesting? Because for some people, you're right.
Yeah.
I guess being homeless would be like camping.
Yep.
Because you basically have what you have. So I can't see that as being very fun. But I do like going up to like Zion and just
yeah.
into nature.
Yeah.
That's because when I come home, it does make me appreciate my creature comforts and the familiarity of it.
Yeah.
But every so often...
Zion is a great place anyway. Just, and as a photographer, I love that place because I don't care where you're looking. There's just a phenomenal picture right there.
My husband has a Volkswagen van again, so we love taking the bikes up there.
Yeah.
And we go all the way up to, what's the very top? The, where the Narrows?
Yeah.
The very top, where the Narrows
The
things are.
peak.
Yeah, and then we ride the bikes all the way back down to the
Oh, that's
visitor
cool.
center. But the seasons as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm really getting a Zion Jones, so I don't know what I'm going to have to do about that. But anyway, getting
Well, the
back to
weather's
feng
getting
shui.
nice for it. So.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. What's also interesting about the national parks? I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but my husband and I have always noticed how in the summertime we hear more foreign language
Oh,
than
yeah.
English.
Yeah.
Because we take it for granted because it's in our backyard. And I don't, because I love that place. But also, just the whole thing of Europe doesn't have this kind of stuff. I don't know. Do they have national parks in Europe? I think they do.
Yeah, they
in
do.
Germany, maybe.
Yeah, and I beg to differ, because it's like the UK. I mean, you go to the Midlands in the UK, and it's they don't have a national park, but they are surrounded. I mean, it's just, you're out in the middle of nature, no matter where you go. You go to a pub and.
But you know what these national parks out here remind me of is that you can. First of all, they're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
They haven't been overpopulated. They are still the Wild West.
Yeah.
And I think that's the feeling I get when I go to those parks, is just that incredible.
Stepping back in time?
Yes, I could totally understand how it must have felt, because they've kept it that way. And it's not overrun. I've often thought about, what Catalina would look like if nobody had said, we're not building.
Yeah.
I wonder how overrun that would have been.
Well, at least they don't have any cars there.
Oh, yeah.
I love Catalina. Yeah, it's cool.
I used to work there in the summers when I was in college.
Oh, wow.
For the Glendale Y.
Oh,
I was
okay.
one of the lifeguards.
Yeah.
And swim instructors.
And
it
the
was
buffaloes.
fun.
I love the buffaloes.
Yeah. Do they still have the buffaloes?
They did a few years back. Yeah.
We used to chase
10
the
years
wild
ago?
boar at like evening time.
Okay.
Yeah, scare the little kids out
Have
of
you
their
ever
mind.
flown into Catalina?
No.
Oh, it's scary as shit.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, because the strip's only like 7 feet long. So, I mean, when you come in, you can, little 4-seater planes and stuff like that, like a Piper Cub and stuff. But you come in there, and I mean, you're like touching down right on the edge of the runway.
Oh, really?
And when you take off, you run out of runway, and so the plane actually starts to take off and then drops because there's no more runway there, and then picks up and takes off. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I used to love as a kid. Do you remember the white steamer?
Yeah.
We used to go down. We used to take the white steamer for the day.
Yep.
Every summer, and all the kids in the neighborhood and the mothers would come too, and then we'd go to Catalina, and it was one of those days where we'd wake up really early in the morning, and we wouldn't come home until really late at night, and it would totally wipe us kids out for like maybe 2 or 3 days. The mothers were like, hallelujah.
So for one day of some really strenuous activity, the moms and dads got 2 or 3 days of some relaxing freedom.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was telling my daughter that when I was growing up that we were poor.
Wait,
and
you
she
were
said,
telling your daughter when you were growing up, or you were telling your daughter that when you were growing up?
That when
okay,
I was
I just want to make sure.
Thank you. I was speeding too fast there. Thank you for slowing me down. And, she was saying, I said, we had 5 people. We had 2 bedrooms, 1 bath. It was cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't think that having everything as a child really makes you more resourceful. But, how can I put this? I was telling my daughter that, in my neighborhood, when you grew up in a low-income neighborhood, there's a lot of kids.
Well,
but when you grow up with,
there weren't that many TV channels at that time.
Well, yeah, exactly. You're right.
Yeah.
There was Channel 2, Channel 1, and then of course Batman, which was always fun.
Yep.
But yeah, and so I said to my daughter, I said, we didn't have to go places. If we did, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
But we entertained each other.
Oh yeah, and the thing is that, especially in the summertime, as soon as it got light, you're outside. And you're out there all day.
We used to get on the
until
bikes
it got dark. Yeah.
and drive to Hollywood.
Yeah.
From Silver Lake. Run all around. Now, we were always in a gang of kids. But I remember doing that all the time, thinking nothing of
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
And I think my daughter walked somewhere the other day, and I was like, oh, and I'm thinking, oh, Susan, come on. Anyway, I would like everybody to, getting back to the feng shui, think about what you would name your house. And you know what? It also
what would
goes
you
back.
name your house?
Well, I have. It's already been named.
Okay. So what did you name your house?
It's Monarch Butterfly Bay.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, I can get it.
It was named by my East Coast producer, Mary Jo in the Know, years ago. And
that
she
makes sense.
she even sends mail to that address, and then mail still gets there. Love the United States Postal Service. Anyway, John, it has really been nice.
I'm going to name
talking
my
to you.
house Cool Ranch.
Cool Ranch. Oh! Or Doritos.
Yeah, Doritos Cool
We're
Ranch.
going to go to Doritos tonight. We're having cocktails at Doritos. But that's also how rich people, they always had like the Fenwick House or the Beacon Manor.
Let's go to the Beacon Hill House.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's so. Well, let's play that game for a while.
All right.
All righty. Well, thank you very much for coming, and thank you for joining me and
had
talking
fun.
about all these things. And I look forward to maybe seeing you next week.